My bad. I'm here. Okay. Sorry. Uh, all right. Oh, this is so cool. Okay.
Yeah, I used to use it all the time.
Wow.
It is a bot that I forgot to invite. I tend to just put him in a room all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
The number of the people in the room, the minimum is going to be about like four.
Oh, okay.
So eventually, maybe in the future, we can add one more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do like a three-way or something.
Yeah.
That would be nice, though.
Yeah, I'd like to hear other people's perspectives on things too. Oh, and I saw that you went somewhere the other day with your friends. Where'd you go? You went like somewhere to like drink or something or like eat. I don't know.
Saw me on the street
In Brooklyn.
in
No, no,
Brooklyn.
no. You posted something on Instagram, and I
Oh,
was gonna ask you where that was,
that
but
was that was me and my coworker.
oh,
We
okay, okay, okay.
and that was right after the shift.
Oh, okay, okay. Gotcha,
The
gotcha.
first time I didn't go, but the second time, we just had like two drinks.
Yeah,
We talked for a bit, since it's my new job. Yeah,
yeah.
started
How is
like
it?
no,
How's the new job going? Like, how do you like it?
it's been great, but
That's-
still, I feel like it sucks to be the most experienced, like in the group.
Yeah.
At first, they have to talk to you, to have to test you out,
Yeah,
your knowledge, your experience, and they know nothing about you, so they think, you're just a poser type,
yeah, yeah,
and then you have to show them like what you're capable of.
yeah. Prove
And that's
yourself. Yeah.
I don't mind though. That's the reason why I went for another interview. Just in case, if they don't want me around, then I
Right.
can go somewhere else.
I remember you mentioning like you want to leave America in like a few years. Where would you want to travel to? Like, would you ever want to like stay in one place? Like, do you have like an ideal place to live for the rest of your life? Or you're still just kind of waiting,
I don't I never thought about just staying one place forever. I
right?
hate that.
I mean, like living in one spot, but like you can still travel, but like living in one spot, you know what I mean?
I always wanted to live in several spots, multiple.
Yeah,
I like the feeling that a couple years you can live here, and then a couple more years you can live somewhere else. I feel
yeah,
like the world is too big. Of
yeah,
course, travel, but you're not gonna experience anything.
right,
You'll see the neighborhood, but you will never feel it.
right. That's true. That's a good
You'll
way of
see
putting it.
the neighborhood. Doesn't matter if it's gonna be good or bad,
Right.
but it's a different feeling if you're living in it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
I'm not like a nomad or anything. Like a backpacker. I'm not a backpacker. I'm a. I like to migrate.
Right.
Yeah.
What's like the difference between someone who does like backpack versus like what you do?
They they're not settled. I feel like
Right.
backpackers they keep traveling. They'll never stop. They'll think about, oh, I can live here for a couple years or a couple months or only a
Yeah.
few days. It depends on their situation, I feel like.
Yeah.
And another thing is maybe the job, the income level.
Right, right, right.
It's another different thing. Do you like to be somewhere else?
Um, I like to travel. I feel as though sometimes, it's impossible to feel every place, if you know what I mean. It's impossible to live in every place and feel like how you were saying, like you have to live somewhere for a certain amount of times in order to feel it instead of just experience it, you know? Like, there's a difference. Um, yeah, I think I wanna I don't know. I want to do what I can, and it's hard to right now in the world that we live in. Um, but I wanna try to travel places and, like, learn as much as possible. I don't just wanna There's a lot of people that do the same thing I'm trying to do, cause like, I'm trying to start my own business kind of, like, about travel and about, like, East Asian, like, food and fashion and culture and history, and I met this lady, and she's an owner of she's pretty much, like, the founder of this bubble tea company, and she sat with me and she asked me like, what's different about you, like, than everyone else in the world? Like, what makes you different? Like, what makes your business different, and like your ideas and stuff? And I guess if anything, I'll travel the world because I want to speak to the people and I just want to hear their stories. Like, I just want to learn from people's stories. I don't just want to like take pictures of food and post it on Instagram or on my website. Like, I want to sit there and listen to the person who made it, and I want them to tell me what experience they had with that dish. Like why they love it so much. Like, did their mom make it for them when they were younger? Is there like some sort of story to it, Like, I like hearing the in-depth things, and I want to like I want small businesses, like businesses that most people would just walk by and not really think about. Like, I want to go into those businesses and just sit down with restaurant owners and just talk to them when I travel to like different countries. And I really like feeling people's emotions, like I love connecting with people and like having a moment of just like a connection, And I think that's what I really want to do when I travel. And I mean, I don't want to live in these places. I want to like hear the people and like what they have to say. But yeah, that's what I want to do, and I want to help people, and I want to like build schools, and I want to like bring education to people. You know what I mean? Like humanitarian things, and also just things for my own knowledge.
Yeah, it's nice. it's nice to think about, you know, you have a trajectory, you have a plan.
Yeah.
You're in media, I feel like you're the person in the middle to connect. You're a connection. I feel like, you know, because the last time we were talking about, I feel like you have to package it like that. You have to package it like, you are one of the portal
Right.
from one place to another.
Yeah.
You have to travel.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that like, you if you want to stay in a few places, if you really want to do this, it's gonna be decades.
Yeah.
If you only want to focus on, you know, Asian countries, then yeah, it'll be a decade after decade. You have
Yeah.
to go through all the countries, South Asia, East Asia, until you can, you are, until you are experienced, you know.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you about the story. There's like I used to work in like a hospital, and did I tell you I met a war veteran in a hospital. So I used to be a housekeeper and at a hospital like years ago. And nobody wanted to work on the COVID unit as the housekeepers. No other housekeeper wanted to work on the COVID unit. And I decided that I wanted to because, like a lot of people are suffering and, I want to help them. And like when I do what I do, like I do it with purpose. It's cleaning. A lot of people are just like, "Oh, it's just cleaning. It's no big deal." But when you're in a hospital and like you're taking care of like somebody's room and making sure they have water and blankets and pillows, and you start to connect with people. And in the COVID unit, like it was hard because every room I had to go into, I had to wear like a suit and like the gloves and everything. Like it was very tiresome. I was very sweaty and like I was a mess. And I'd have to go in with a whole suit and like three masks on and like a face shield and everything. And there was this one gentleman that I met, and he was really, really old, and his eyes were very yellow, and his skin was very, very yellow. And in the medical field, if somebody has yellow skin, it usually means that their liver is failing or their kidneys are failing, one of the two. So he was dying pretty much. Um, and I noticed that he had like a card on his table and it said he was a veteran. And so I asked him, I was like cleaning his room and stuff, and I said, "Sir, I don't mind, I hope you don't mind me asking, but what war were you involved in, any war or anything?" And he turned to me and he said, "Yeah, I was involved in the Korean War." And
Mhm.
at the time, I was dating a guy from Korea, and I talked to him about that, and I started like humming this song that I knew from Korea, and it's a very like powerful song that like
Mhm.
all Koreans know, and it's like very sad. It's a sad song. It's called Arirang, and um I was humming it, and the gentleman he was hearing me, and he stopped me and he said, "I know that song." And I said, "Really?" I don't remember the name of it, and he says, and he starts singing it. He just starts singing it, and his voice starts to shake when he sings it, and he looks at me, and his eyes start getting very watery because he's tearing up, and he says, "The Korean people were the best people I've ever met in my life." He said, "I was so happy to be there to help them, and to protect them." And he started to cry and he told me the stories about what it was like in Korea during the Korean War and the bloodshed and the how everyone was starving because they didn't have any place to like grow their crops and like their like vegetables and stuff. So people actually had to use their own shit to fertilize the ground, eat their plants, like to eat the food and to grow vegetables. He told me, and I was like very emotional because as he's telling me, what he saw, it was like standing there. I was in my suit, sweating in like a hospital room, but I open my eyes and I'm there with him, like I'm seeing it all happen when he's talking about it, and I felt like in a moment I felt like I was there, the way he described it and the emotion, he put into telling that story. And he cried and he asked me for a favor, and I told him I would do that. So, and to this day, I haven't forgotten the favor. So when I go to Korea, I'm gonna do what he asked of me, because he wants to a vinyl record with the song Arirang on it, and he wanted me to get one from Korea and bring it back to him. So I told him and I promised him that I would, and that one day I'd find him again, whether he's alive or not alive, and I would give it to him. So that's something that I'll never forget. And it was a very emotional thing, I didn't even know this guy, I held his hand and he cried and I cried, and I told him, I said, whenever I get married to whoever it may be, I said that I would leave him a chair, an empty chair, in for him. And he cried even more and I cried even more. And I went out of the room and I was sweating because I had my whole suit on, and the nurses were like, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "That man in that room did really amazing things. And he's a really a good person, and you need to make sure that you take care of him." And I was crying so hard, and my bosses were like, "Are you okay?" Because working in the hospital, you see a lot of death and not so nice things. So they didn't know exactly what I saw. But I told them the story, and they were very happy because a lot of housekeepers, they just don't care about what they're doing. They just clean the room. They don't talk to the patient. Same with doctors, same with nurses. No one has the time to do that, but I always try to make time to talk to people, and I'm really happy that I had a chance to talk to him.
It was amazing of you. It was a really, really good story.
Yeah,
I wish I
I
could have. I can remember something so deep, something so touched my heart.
it's really taking me everything in my power to not cry right now because I really miss him. Like, I only spoke to him for that one day, but in the moment it felt so like it felt I don't know how to describe it. Uh It gave me the feeling of watching a Studio Ghibli movie, like the
It's
films of Howl's Moving Castle. Like that's the feeling it talking to him gave me. And it was just I don't know what feeling that is, but I think you might understand if you've seen one of those movies. It just made me
he
feel like,
gave
you
you
know,
part of his soul that day.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. That was it's been with me for a long time. I never told anybody about it. Since I was a kid, I remember I have this feeling that whatever I have tend to last longer than other people's. At first, I thought, you know, it's just because I'm good at taking care of it, or I just don't use it that much. And later, I really realized that is not the case. Even before that, that was so little. And then later, that was when I was in college and met my Japanese friends. And then they told me that I was basically practicing one of their religion without knowing it.
Uh,
In Japan, there was a religion called Shinto. Their saying is everything in this world, every tree, every object that we create has part of the soul in it. Most of the souls inside of those objects are not their own. Most of the souls in those objects are given. Some of the souls are better and stronger. So that thing, that object, it can be a pen, it can be a fork, it can be anything. If it has a soul, that thing tends to last longer. That thing tends to not to break that easily.
that's interesting.
We taking care of the things we use. We taking care of the things, not only the things, the people around us. We give out souls, and we also receive it at the same time.
Right. Mm.
I remember I had this feeling because I started pouring my soul out to everything I own.
Mm.
And then it became so obvious that they just got better. Maybe that's the reason why we have this whole collection thing. People, they tend to collect some stuff, some old
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
because of their maybe their previous owner taking care of it, an old car, an old bike,
Yes, just like
coin.
yours. Mm.
And then, I mean, since I have friends all over the place, I told my Indian friend about it. And then they told me they have the similar saying. And then
Mm.
they call it the bond between a person to another person, or person to an object.
Mm.
And that is just so crazy that like I imagine should be true.
Yeah, I agree.
We give our souls to people unintentionally. At the same time, we receive it.
Right.
That old man is living inside of your heart. You have his soul. Until one day, you forget about him. Until one day, you're old. You couldn't remember his name, his face, his story. He will be living through you. Do you have something precious?
Yeah, I have a few things that I are very precious to me that I was given by someone who's no longer here anymore.
You know, we all have.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter how small. It is a decision. The
right.
moment you receive it.
And it is true, we all live through one another, we're all connected in some way.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older. Back in the day, I never had this many precious things to keep.
Right,
Back in the day, I thought everything can be replaceable.
mm,
I thought everything you just use, and if it broke, you replace it.
right,
And then I start to learn, and then I start to take more time with it.
right,
My bike, my camera, my phone, my clothes. I start to learn how to fix it, how to repair it,
right,
how to save them, how to make all those things, all those objects, they can live just a little bit longer.
right. Yeah, I was always a weird kid. I told you before, I was always that kid that looked at everything that everyone else overlooked. I always saw something small and I made it into something big. Like As an example, I took a class in middle school or high school on creative writing, and we had to write stories. We had an assignment that was due, and we had to write a story about something that wasn't alive. So, personification. We had to have a personification story about whatever you want. It could be a dollar bill, it could be a can, it could be whatever, a pen. So, what I chose for my personification story, there was two things. I made two stories. One I made for my class, the other one I just made for myself. The one I made for my class, which I wish I still had, I can't find it anymore. And there's no way I could rewrite it because the way I wrote it back then was just so perfect and I would never write it any other way. That's what sucks about losing like a piece of like writing. Like I wish I could remember exactly what how I wrote it, but it was a story about being a grain of sand in the ocean. Just
Wow.
one little grain of sand, what it was like, and the life that it had, and like where it visited and where it went, and how it felt, and all that stuff. And then I did another personification story on darkness.
Mhm.
If darkness was a living being, what would it say? How would it feel? So I did like that was the story I really loved working on because I knew nobody else picked darkness. No one else thinks about that. No one thinks about what would darkness say if it was a thing, if it was like living, if it was alive. And I wrote this story and I mentioned how, darkness was a very it was a very it had a lot of different emotions to it, and it felt sad and a little bit depressed because a lot of people are scared of the dark, right? When you're a kid, you're scared of the dark. A lot of people are. Um, he, I made darkness into like a male presence, so he said that he felt abused as well because in at night people steal cars, people rape people, people use darkness to like do bad things, you know? And so
Mhm.
he also felt kind of disgusted at himself for covering up these bad things that happen in the world at night. And so then in the story, darkness was at one point he felt kind of happy because in my story, these two young kids, they were like on a secret date, like when they're like 15 or whatever, 16, and they finally get a moment to be together alone, just like looking up, and darkness is seeing them like sit there and talk to each other and tell each other how much they love each other. And in that moment, darkness felt happy, you know. And another point in the story that was like so important was when darkness was during there was a war happening somewhere in the world, and this soldier was on the ground and he had nowhere to hide. It was like a very plain field, like there was no trees, there was nothing to hide behind. And the man was laying in the darkness just in the middle of the field, praying that he wouldn't get found because it's dark. So he hid in the darkness for safety, and darkness was watching this all happen below him and in him, and he was looking at this man, and the man was saying, "Thank God that it's so dark. I'm so happy that it's dark because now I can survive." And as he's like praying this and thinking this in his mind, darkness can feel it. He can feel that the soldier is relieved. And as the soldier's like laying there in the darkness, the soldiers of the enemy, you can hear like the footsteps walking by him laying down right next to him. They didn't even see him because it was dark. So that was my story on like darkness and like the different feelings that it would have, you know? So as a kid, I thought about everything being alive, and my parents would always think I'm weird for it, you know? They, like, I'd always be like, "Don't hurt that book," or "Don't touch my stuffed animal and throw it down the stairs," like, "Don't do that," or, you know, "Be nice to this piece of paper." Like, those stupid things when I was a kid, you know? And I just always felt, just like you said, and like a lot of religion says, is that there's a lot of personality and souls in things because you give it that spirit, you know?
Yes.
You transfer a part of your spirit in that thing, you know?
You remind me because, half of my family, they are artists. I grew up with pencils, and paper.
Yes. Yeah.
When I was a kid, like a little kid, like 9 years old, 8, 9, I used to save a lot of plain paper because in my mind, that was precious. That
Yes.
was innocent and somehow has value.
Right.
I always go to school and start to collecting papers. Doesn't matter where I can get, as long as doesn't matter how big it is, as long as it's white, as long as there's no pencil marks, I will collect it. I will fold it up and then I'll make it into a notebook. That went on for like several years until I one day I realized there are photocopiers, and until I saw it, there are stacks after stacks of plain, perfectly white paper in the machine.
Yeah.
And then that's when I stopped it for saying, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore.
Mm.
It was like value. That was my value
Yeah.
when I was a kid. Because I feel like a piece of blank paper has more value than most other things.
And I think that you might think that because blank paper has so much like untouched potential. It's
Right.
almost like a newborn baby, you know, like it's not touched by the world. You know what I mean? Like it's just this.
And also because, during that time, I tend to draw a lot.
Yeah.
So for me to collect like fresh pencils, to collect like papers, that was my that was my soul.
Yeah.
That was what I cared about when I was a kid. I felt like, oh, I can use this pencil and this paper to create something,
Right.
to create something beautiful. to create something that people like. And I was so drawn by it. I was a kid. I always think about, the next thing I can draw
Right.
on my paper. That was so amazing, that feeling.
Yeah. Do you feel as though as you have gotten older, like, do you feel that you can still have that feeling again with paper? What changed for you?
Change anything. We have more resource now.
Right.
iPad, if I want to draw it, I can open it up and think about something. Think about a piece of furniture. If I really want to do it, I will go for it. The color,
Yeah.
shape. I will think everything through, and and then I will visualize it. Maybe one day I can sell it for some money. But that feeling for the paper and pencil, that feeling is gone. It never
Yeah.
came back. It never came back when that moment I saw that paper in the photocopier.
Mm.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What I've been doing is kind of useless. If I have a couple dollars, I can just buy freshly cut, freshly cut, bland piece of paper, A4, A5, huge sizes. I can buy the pencils from the store and sharpen it to make it perfect. I can use. We were so young. We were so naive.
Yeah.
The thing that we used to hold value doesn't exist anymore.
It's weird now, seeing young people and like how different they have grown up. And I don't know, I guess this sounds very like an old person thing to say, but like it just weirds me out that there's like kids that just don't care about things like we did growing up,
They have a
you
different
know?
value. I think so. And I do think that like the things they value is kind of intangible. It's not a good car, an old car. It's not something you can touch. It can be a video. It can be a TikTok clip that they made. It can be a lot of things, but mostly, I think they're memories.
Yeah.
Mm. Have you? There was a show. There was a show like when you were mentioning about like darkness. It remind me of a show. The show is called Sandman. Have you watched it?
I have not.
It was a good show. But the similarity was there was a character in that show is depicted as death.
Okay.
That was something that I will never forget.
Mm.
How they personify death in the show.
Mm.
It was amazing.
Wow, alright, I guess I'm gonna have to watch it. I
Yeah, you
wanna
should.
see.
If you can personify darkness, yeah, of course, someone will personify death
Yeah.
or light or
Yeah.
age. You know why it's called the Sandman?
No.
I think it's a personification of time. Maybe. Anyway, it was nice to talk to you, Biana.
Yay, thank you. It's always nice to talk to you. You always have a lot of interesting things to say, and when I'm quiet, it's because I'm thinking. Because you make me think a lot. Which is a good thing.
I like the feeling. You know,
It's important to
about
have these talks, with people. It's important to have more than just silly talks because, you know, it's important to, instead of just talking about normal everyday things, it's good to talk about these things. It's important.
yeah, it can be anything. What's part of me? Just like the old man, I was trying to give you a part of my soul.
And now the old man is in your soul because I told his story through me, and now it's part of you now. So now you
Yeah,
know
a
his
little bit.
story
A tiny little bit.
a little bit. That's good enough.
Yeah, that's the reason why. I don't think. Yeah, those things will never die, I believe.
Yeah.
It goes around.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
ぞ。じゃあ、Sekiro。さらば。